Okay, let's do a little bit on taxation and human behavior today instead of me screaming about politics. What is forced taxation? What is child labor? What is human development? What is independence? And what is involuntary servitude at the base and color of law and property? So, to cause mental stress from original property would be that a man and woman, as they go through life, they develop their own customs and properties and their own doings. Like, you know, what you care for and what you go through creates a perspective. A merger of perspective and definition would be union of God. That would be child, okay? So it'd be employed of mother and father. So where that child's employed of their properties to have, to hold on, or to cherish and to support, and a right to a loving mother and father, that's the child's rights, right? That's a given right. And that's not to be bowed or impeded upon. That's sinful. You don't block light. You don't walk in between a bear and its child. And you don't block light from conscious, and you don't cause mental distress. Mental distress of a child through enforcement of other means. So if I'm controlling a society, what I'm doing, or raising the price and causing stress on the parents, is I'm putting pressure on or turning an environment into an atmosphere, all right? And I'm making their lives hard by raping them and regulating the products, prices, and values, because their property is very private, and the relationship between mother and father is equivalent. That means they don't owe each other nothing. They can live their life as they so see it fit, but they both owe support to that child. They can keep the door open. Whatever their agreement is up to them. Sometimes that's between communities or someone needs to come, but the door needs to be open for them both for that child support, because that is relationship, and it cannot be viewed as a monetary source. Nor can a false light be shined. Shining false representation through the representation or the intellect of a child, or the taking of its properties, or would be forced taxation and child labor, causing distress and disturbance to the agricultural or to the ways of the employment of that child. Now, the attack on the properties of the United States by customs of the United States of America is a very dangerous thing, because if you change in which we stand, and that's for man, woman, and child, or the process of three of agricultural, and you start applying pressure and you manipulate what that is through education boards and through judicial systems and other giving power to businesses of organization and applying pressure. See, in the United States of America, or of any outlying land, or of the flow of nature, it is to be that there's no deer looking for God. They are. They're part of their own goodly nature. They're not looking for crisis. Okay, they're a fear of people. It's very beautiful and very spiritual. Now, it's not to impede or impose upon that flow of nature that the mammals and the deer and the birds, they are people. They got the pupil, the eye, their awareness. A star is a pupil, a people. Okay, but the intellectual properties of the heritage of the native ways or the land is a very sacred thing, a very humane thing. All right, civilization, to be civilized, is to be in a humane nature. Now, any city organization receiving the flow of property or flow of the people are private. People are not to be impeded upon and can live their life in their own due process of their own right of way. That means they can live their life as they so see it fit and do whatever the fuck they want. You stay the fuck out of the way. All right? Now, people on granted public land, meaning granted for pub. Okay? The Constitution, everything was written in a pub. That means you can bar the product, you can't bar the people. And it's about cocktails and, you know, liquor store and all that stuff. I mean, it's European Union. Okay? So the world is a very sexual place, because it is about consummation of marriage, all right? And the ceremony was only to be recognized by, they could do it for religious purposes, to honor the consummation, which is child. Okay, now where the child is like I've got 2 girls, okay, and they're both my wives, and so is the mother, and I'm their husband. Okay, now, does that mean relationship of that? No, it's to honor the wife and her inner child, to become equivalent and move the building blocks and provide what I didn't receive or she didn't receive, and remove those tripping blocks for stepping stones. All right, it's to propel each other forward. It's not to live through or to put the child under any kind of psychological stress or make the child live. It's just to have to hold, to honor, cherish, make sure, because that child is born cord cut, it belongs to itself. You don't own it, but you brought it to the soil, so you're required to provide and protect it from any falls higher than the feet, or if it's tripling over the clothing or whatever. Natural falls of earth is fine. Now, man-made waterfalls and deprivation and this other shit, that is sinful. All right, especially when you start including that property is the same as land and selling off trees, because you can't cut somebody out of their heritage. You cut somebody out of a tree. Now, recently, so if you say a mom gets a new boyfriend or whatever, it's a false light. All right? Or you're pulled into it, or you got to go in like me, I got to go up somewhere. Or somebody comes in and impedes in your life because they've attracted your property, and your tract of land the same, and put your lifeline in the roadway, and they can go in front of you or in back of you, is a very big problem. Okay, I'm in opposition. I'm very, very much in opposition to everybody else, because I wasn't born fully of the womb. Okay, I'm not born without a father. Which is a difference, because I'm on the outside looking in and on the inside looking out. So it gives me a different perspective. All right, so I'm able to see a little bit clearer, but I've also kept myself from being contaminated by education boards and police departments, and I've always stood for my integrity. So my properties is always, fuck you, I don't have an authority, I'll take the hard way. And they want my power, right? They want who I am. They stand upon my fucking head and beat me into the ground. So where the United States of America has instated through governance that they're the U.S. and they get you to sign these DOT. So if you go to Bend right now, so anyway, well, I won't go into that, hold on. So putting children and women or men, that's why the Geneva Convention was written, and not to have a matrial war, that we stand for man, woman, and child. And Bell and Howell, anyway, it's like an LLC, but it's more of a lighting and communication company, like what I'm doing right now. I'm expressing myself, and I'm lighting, and I'm communicating, and parts of your brain are lighting up and being aware of what I'm talking about. All right? So this is a different type of communication of business, and this is the foundation. Okay? Because stress, what it does is causes people, they call it lunacy, but don't blame the moon cycle, okay? Causes them to go crazy because it pushes them off into other properties. Okay, where a child's fragmented is that innocence will not live within inside of a chaotic thing. So if you take somebody's property or child, or you shine false light, it goes, takes off and is in the shadow. That's why it's no put women and children in action, war, or use as a tool. It's also connected to who you are. So they could use it to maybe talk in their ears, kind of what Baird's ears about, or Baird's ears. It's about saying negative things about a parent. See, a child be 100%, but it's 100% mother, 100% father, with a given 10% respect between the two. It's 100% of development of union, okay, and 100% from the original light. All right. But that original light is basically just a foundation like the land, okay? And what it is when he gives her that light, that seed, and she welcomes him welcomes that seed to her property to grow it. It's a lot like the land. And I heard a very, very beautiful spirit with that recently. It was very beautiful. But to grow that and gives that light a home. It creates a foundation. It creates a bond and union between that. So she gives him a home, really, you know, and then they grow the seed together, and then there's a union of birth. So it's a very beautiful thing. It's not something to be taken lightly, and it's very innocent, very perfect. It's not a sinner, and it is strong enough to it is very, very aware, and right out the gate is smarter than the parents almost already is, because it's got the union of those properties. Now, to not trust or distrust them is very, very, very done. But see, where they're taking the father, taking my children, this causes a distrust, an unequivalency, and where they're using things like you know, color and racism and things. All life is equivalent. All mammal in nature is that original light is an expression. So when you express yourself, you're expressing in vibration at a different angle of reflection. So that means that the mammals and everything and their depth of color. So a cat, it's purr. It's a very deep, passionate. It's like the expression of the sun of excitement. Dad, hi. And then if you put that vibration up against a glass of water, it's going to give you a pattern like a snake that requires that light. Okay? So the expression of the moon is more like a sleeping baby's face, the expression of comfort and you know, the egg on the uterine wall being excited by the expression of the sun. And the birthing waves, the water waves. Well, this does all imply, because it is a direct reflection of what the original light is. So, so birthing waves, you can't apply them as land, but you know, there is sections of land you cannot fucking incorporate with policy and ordinance, like Crescent City and those beach and international lands by Elk Creek and stuff like that. There's a nipple up there that's like the mother's tit, all right? And if they're running them fucking the policies and ordinance across that land and damaging them people, it's hurting the milk. Just like here in American Fork. Forced abandonment of a child, you know what I mean? That's a sin. You don't impede in other people's families. That ain't nobody's fucking business. That ain't no president-elect's business. That ain't nobody's business, because I am real light of intellect. And their federal administration, they must govern it themselves. That's why the Constitution was written, if working for governance or for the administration for the majority of people, it's designed to defend yourself from being enslaved to the system. Because we, the people, for the people, we defend our independence. And we work for independence. All right? That means that I provide goods and services to ease the lives of families, to promote, create a motorcycle to take the ease off the horse, create a tractor to take it off of the animals and off of the thing, create better tools so it ain't so backbreaking work to till the land. And never you still got to let land rest. You know, you can only use it for like 3 years. It's got to rest for 7 or 7 years and less for 3 or whatever. So you rotate in and out. But that 3422, what that is on a 24-hour clock. You know, R22, R34 don't release, that freon, they say, into an environment or into an atmosphere. It's don't use that bottlenecking of 12 by 12, because America is tops and China's top 12 by 12, and it gives a double perspective, and then they're still sliding by hand. But once I include and I invade child labor, and I start building a prison mining camp of a Holocaustic event of the War of 300, I create a big problem. So they went in and traded off the steel plant to China, and tore down the Geneva Convention physically to avoid the actual contract not to use women and children as an action of war. So the LDS, I'm a howl, so it's like I've always had owls with me. I'm not the king of wells, or drilling wells, but I am a king at being well. And I'm king. My children made me a king, and made me a father. I was just a little boy, so I got to be a father to myself, So, if you move in an asshole stepdad like they did my mother, she had Christopher Alvin Lund. He was a Bountiful City hostage negotiator. I'm a very good person, and I sit with a lot of people, and I've walked with a lot of people, and I love people, and I see the best in them, and I always will. I've been through hell and back. I've been through, let me explain. Pressure. Just like out at the Front Erosion, okay, where the sea's at. The New Horizon is like the land floating through the water, and what it does is builds this hump like a curb. And when that water tension breaks, it comes in and it washes it goes into the land and it washes all the stuff back out and feeds it out to the fish, okay? If you go to New York, you see this curb right there by the Statue of Liberty. Okay, it's a wall of water. You'd think there's a curb there. There's something there. It actually just lifts up where the water hits the bay. It's amazing. Same with the Mississippi River and why they dam the water. But you see, like in Utah, when they move Conquille River, they're forcing abandonment of your civic duty. And they're using education boards and DARE programs to impede upon your children and educate your children and using religious beliefs. You don't realize they attack from your freaking future to put you into religious beliefs. 1947. They're trying to say 1900 now at the LDS Church, but it was moved, right? Because they moved Salt Lake City. But what it is that's why the temple's foundation cracked flat out. It was for putting their hand in the union of God and playing in games, climbing upon the well and demanding, because to view through somebody's intellect, use of the Statue of Liberty, and to crack into the cerebellum, it's the same thing as the Trojan horse and the Liberty Bellum, why they did crack and to break into the mind and cause mental distress, and then use business as an organization to apply pressure, create codes and customs, to create special codes and ordinance, to regulate by policy 7-Elevens and all these other things, to force identification, to not sell certain products, to declare that marijuana or any other substance, even against prohibition, because there is no prohibition. You should probably smoke pot, do those things with your kids to find out what their tolerances are before, what's good and everything else before they go out into life. You don't want them to go out there half-cocked and say, well, we're just going to go to war with who it's got, and we're going to bring the drugs here and use them for our own medication and go to war. No, you don't ever fucking take somebody else's seed. You leave the pot where the pot came from. You leave the coke where the coke came from. You leave them where they are. You build your houses right from the ground that you're at. And then you open up free trade like you always should be. You don't subdivide and say Mexico. I built my family through my doings in there and working with people that I cared for through my life. My family's always kind of attacked me, but I walk 45. So my life's a little different than most, but the thing is there's a left angle too, okay? So let me explain what a left angle is. You should always do what's right in your life, what your moral code and compass says, even against your heritage. You've got the right of way to live the way you so see it fit. Run down the street naked with a dildo hanging out your ass. Who cares? I'll have a good laugh, Social pressure. Now, when they start regulating businesses by social pressure, that's what the LDS did. Blacks couldn't hold priesthood. But let me tell you what a black is. And BLM, Bureau of Land Management. All right? That's the merger of property and land. It is blacklisting, blackballing and denial. Denial of the river is death. Okay, so human psychology and the human well-being and uniting to stand for what's right so another one is not held against their will, and long-term prison mining camps. Okay, so where the morale of the people is supposed to be independent of the flow of the land, they're misguiding the ship, the people, by using fear. So this is media, this is World Trade Centers, this is coronavirus, this is 911 emergency. It's an emergency. It's a tsunami of covering up waterways and deprivation of the riverways to feed the land. Because if you have an open river in an environment like that, the river actually gives you a natural flow and it calms the environment. But they want to play harsh sounds, sirens, and they use what it's called. They played the sonar underneath water of the sea, and it drove the wells upon the beaches. So they use radiation or sonar and radar, and then 5G. 5G is a lot of gravity. I mean, a roller coaster ride's not supposed to be over 3G, so they're putting a lot of pressure on the brain. This causes atmospheric pressure. This causes weather patterns. Like when they tore down the Geneva Convention, they put up a nuclear power plant and created false gravitational lines. So my birth is 10/29/1980. It's also, a lot of things that lied up with the 2020, okay? Which is 40, which is 1980, which is 99, okay? 00, ground zero. 20 days, 20 nights of Moses. Moses comes in and says, hey, you guys are building false gods and don't have no belief and other than thyself. That means you believe in who you are, because you can't believe in who somebody else's is, because you need to exist. Great shrines of gold. They've got Moroni sitting on top of the temple. Okay, so they're ordained an ordinance, policy, and to a celestial kingdom of terrestrial. Okay, so that's eating the body of Christ, or the good, or of the well. That's human consumption. That means they're denying their own soil, their own problems, their own soul, divorcing the earth and going to go to heaven. Stand upon your head and judge you, because they have fragmented. They didn't get kicked out of Missouri. They moved from Missouri. Too bountiful, too wealth. I was moved from Christopher that went to Columbia, was a missionary and a Bountiful City hostage negotiator. All right, to Missouri in independent living. So his name's Christopher. My crying sisters, as he held me as a little kid up against the wall. Do you see what I mean? My spirit fell through to the stairs. I was bound on a stairwell. That's why he's called his stepdad and a father-in-law. A grandfather is a good father, a good dad. That is not enticed to a ceremony with no consummation recognized by a legal system to overthrow the country and all other beings. That thrives and eats on weakness or innocence. Innocence and humanity is considered innocence. They're training themselves and denying the position to fall in love. So, where the President of the United States is supposed to maintain property, your city employees or townships are supposed to maintain property, because no business or organization can hold property. But so they're dragging the neighbors, creating wars with foreign lands, and like they say, Mexico or these other places, by dragging the people. The people are the drug. That's why it's the dragon. Protect the dragon. That's to protect the people. Your civic duty is to stand for one another. You don't teach a man to fish by deprivation. You give a man a fish. You stand for each other, for your dignity and your independence in the flesh. You don't let them push you out of it. You're beautiful from birth. Your parents, you were given to a loving mother and father. Okay? And heritage. But deprivation, where they go in and they strip you of your heritage. And these police out here, policies, including and counting like people like me, they're out here and stating, I got this ticket in my pocket. let me read this to you, what this ticket means. This ticket is, what it says on it, I can explain to you very easily, because they've been trying to divorce me, and they abducted my children across state borders, and they're into the TSA and into pretty much everything. They've gained in through UTA, that is a public asset, and then it's a public-private office, and now privately held to steal assets and land and steal from people and get into the Federal Administration of Regulation through transit, and then put people transient in protection of Walmart and not your independence. Okay, so they're in violation of any kind of contract and land agreements on unincorporated Salt Lake City. So they're not even allowed to be here. They're attacking the infrastructure of the United States through city office and privately held to overthrow the United States and cut down land and sell the land off to other places and slave trade. So on this ticket right here, I'm going to read. See, it says uniform citational information on summons to appear. And it says right there, it says camping on public property. It's got my daughter's birthday as the code. Misdemeanor. The address is 151 University Avenue 300. Let me explain what 151 is. If you look up the address, that is addressed to a medical billing code of University Ave of 33, which is Mason, Power Mason, or my other daughter's birthday, okay? December 12th, 123, 33. So it all goes together. So that uniform information, that's a military personnel information against my independence and demanding my independence to comply. That there is no camping on my property, my properness, my dignity, my integrity. That he's going to take my property. That means that he's going to make me react and spawn and make me be an asshole. So he's got a job to do for medical purposes or for education, human testing. So that means that I'm not allowed to stand my ground because he didn't stand his ground. He passed his civic duty to his incorporated self and is now a military personnel that has attacked his internal light and self-compass and now follows orders. That is a military training camp or military imprisonment. An encampment is a military encampment, and there is no allowed of encamping on of disorderly conduct and thing. So this is a full-on disclosure to spiritually, because they're in the C32 of 34. Okay, so by American Fork Subdivide, okay, it is an incorporation having movement on civilian, and by doing so, what it had done is pushed into Lehigh, started Utah Beehive State Hunting Farm. You know, the Utah Beehives started a big fire, which out the point, make my point, there's a big fire at the apartment complex at the point of the mountain where the fire department's at and everything, and the prison. But you see, and even in Saratoga Springs, they build all the apartment complexes up to code, right? But all these 4 or 5 story type buildings, hundreds of people in each one. No fire extinguishers, no fire escapes, and there's stoves at the front door, letting them know. I told them, I said, you better fucking get down there because you're not up to code. You're out here viewing people, protecting Walmart, and enforcing criminal trespass of people. So, were all these people driving down the road? Due to COVID, which is looping whirling disease, is paralysis the left side of the face. Due to choosing the right and abandonment of that and denial of your own soil and divorcement of the earth and following orders and doing as you're told instead of standing for what's right, to united we stand, like we said in the elementary, we the people, you know what I mean, united we stand. But where they're fragmentating your souls, and like the 9/11 attacks, what that is it's attack on your courtesy, your hospitality, your humanity, your independence. 6 foot is your center of your mass, your square of gravity of any point of your hill. Your center is about 6 to 9 inches, plus you got 2 given feet. So it's really 6, and from any center is where, center of 8 is 16. So you got 6 feet all around at your personal space, or it's kissing face meeting another person, or 6 feet deep and make you veil your face. So out at the Dane, they say war on turbines, or turbine power, turbines. So it's all about creating. So when you're put into a state of fear, your innocence falls deep within inside, and what it does is the true Statue of Liberty, heritage, and other things come out front. But it also puts you in a state of vulnerability. So where they're blocking cause and effect and still in good deed and compass, because no third party so you guys are not allowed to pass the trust to a business, to a third party. They're not to be trusted, because any business circle of people will always, they're working for, and not for the people of independence, but for a corporation, will always cut corners and work for the empire. So you're paying these police departments and all these people to build a prison against you and and take your children. So by letting a religion hang their hat on your decision and your parents' guidance, that's why American Fork goes into PG, Battle Mountain or Battle Creek, parents' guidance, into linear square footage of a square foot pole where the Geneva Convention was and where they tore it down, and now it's Geneva Nuclear Plant. Radiation between 2 fields of state and church of a square is a nuclear of a nucleus. That's a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, so since the War of 300, it's like a big jelly bowl. It's like an earthquake's went off and it's bouncing back and forth. And repetitious war. So you gotta let go of your problems, heritage. I've already created balance. So I've already solved all your biblical terms, solved all the crap. There's balance there. Okay, nature's out there, but you can't divorce nature. You run over a fucking squirrel, let people go crazy, because those are important feelings. But the longer you sit in these city encampments and not be a citizen, like citizens arrest and maintain your power, and the president works for, not the president, I'm actually considered to be the first family, me and my children and wife. But you are too. So I gotta defend my life, land, and liberty at all means. You understand? You're the head of your own fucking household. Your children, that's your relationship, your responsibility. You brought that child here. You don't let no education board. You don't let nobody teach your child. And you don't let them put pressure on you. You always say the hard way, I'm not doing this job. No, sorry. I'm not going to sin against myself and keep demoralizing myself and follow your compass. Because the magnetic compass of them 2 volcanic fields keeps you around on a magnetic compass going opposition to each other, left and right. So you can't even get out of here. They fly in a circle like this into an atmospheric pressure and then back down. Put so much pressure on you. But the thing is, if you star travel or you drag something behind you out to sea, you can get somewhere. But where you fly into the delta state of creation, and it's called an echo, you go in there and you force penetration or intercourse with somebody's intellect, especially somebody like me, and you create a looping disease, and you're in there and you're creating problems because you're in there viewing me as yourself and embedding my life and blocking me of everything, and have no clue that you're imprisoning all existence. That's how smart people are to break into my intellectual property, especially if the CIA or FBI or anybody like that. My grandmother's Pearl Roberts Wade, Pearl of Great Price, Pearl Harbor. My grandmother's first husband was Richard Nelson. He was his subdivide was the president of the LDS Church. Joshua Powell, I'm not Joshua Powell, I'm Joshua Howell. Olivia was an infiltration to take over, but Olivia Graham Washington is where he went and supposedly killed the children. But I got subdivided shadows myself, which is the Ted Bundy case. But immigration, illegal immigration within inside the system, to install a foreign code and compass against your own independence and start subdividing children and attacking civilians on land, crossing boundaries, getting city public offices to impede into the TSA, into international water, international airspace, international space, and then start literally coming in and grabbing my kids and taking them on a cruise out to sea and into Mexico and into other places using tube-back. Where you call TSA, there ain't nothing to do, because you know what? All these businesses right now, you know what they do? They protect their fucking job. And you guys call police departments to launch wars against each other, and they're there to do it. And they're there to subdivide your family, and they're there to take it over. And it is 1,000% not Hitler's fault, because it's being created right now. Do you understand? The nuclear explosions that they talk about, that's what it looks like, what's going on right now, because to subdivide innocence, now that's a sin. You want to hurt a child? You want to hurt your own internal light and turn your head to what the pain is and blast your inner light? That is a fucking sin. And then you're innocent, so, oh, I'm so guilty. That's the innocent part. Okay? So you've got layers of emotion. Most of you are subdivided living up here, hearing me spiritually. And then you guys all come in. You got to go towards the light. Don't go towards the light. You are a light. Stay in your own life preserver. Stay in your boat and row your own way. Don't go to Orem and let them oar you. Subdivide you with the Spanish divide. You stand in your flesh and you stand. You don't let go. Ain't nothing gonna hurt you. I fought every single one of these motherfuckers a million times every day. Every day. Physical fights ain't nothing. Long-term POW. Prisoners of war, of mental warfare, hurting your children. That shadow they use, those subdivides to get up here, they use that for communication. Using you as a relay in a dumb stare while I'm getting out of a dumpster. Love yourself, you're worth it. You have to love who you are before anybody else can love or care for who you are. And that hole you're trying to fill in your life is your own light of who you are. And reconnect with your soil. Quit living inside of these chaotic cities. And be a hand to one another.